Hey guys, Jeff from Predator Academy. I wanted to do a video on, initially I was going to do a video on like how many people to have on a stand and that setup. But what's more important, and I think a lot of people overlook, is understanding the odor you produce on a stand. So my background is 25 years as a police canine handler, trainer, and I own a large dog training facility in Southwest Ohio. I've spent 20 years training dogs how to use their nose to find people. In predator hunting, we're doing the same thing, we're just flipping the script. We're the person that's trying to set up to where the dog can't use their nose to find us. Odor, the thing to remember is odor is proportionate to source. So, real quick, we're going to jump over to police dogs for a second. A drug dog doesn't understand what odor they're smelling. They just understand it earns them a reward. Coyotes understand that the odor of a human is danger. So it's upping that one level. Odor is proportionate to source. A small amount of source produces a small amount of odor. So think of odor like smoke. So if I'm burning a cigarette right here, that you're going to see that smoke, and then it's going to dissipate to a level that you're not going to see the carbon molecules and everything that comes off of it to make smoke. It's going to dissipate to a level that you can't see it. So if you've ever walked up on somebody and you can smell smoke but you can't see it, it's dissipated to a level that you visually can't see it, but you can smell it. Keep in mind, we're trying to flip the script and make it where the dogs can't smell us, right? So if you have one person on a stand, think of that as 240 pounds of source is going to produce X amount of odor. If you have 3 people on a stand and they're all 250 pounds, you have 750 pounds of source producing odor. Now let's talk about how odor moves. And we're going to refer back to smoke. So odor moves in a scent cone. So ambient of mechanical or natural means, a fan or wind, odor is generally heavier than air and follows the path of least resistance. Outside, we almost always have some type of air movement. So if we have a small amount of air movement, you're going to have a short, wide scent cone. And you can see this when something catches fire. You have a campfire out back, and there's no air movement. You ever notice how your campfire just sits there and makes this big plume of a ball of smoke, and it just doesn't go anywhere? And sometimes it'll just settle in the air. That's what your odor's doing. Then I'm sure you've tried to start a fire, and it's windy, and that smoke is in a very narrow line and goes out very far. So everything has, and this is getting kind of scientific, but everything has a dissipation and saturation rate. Where you can't see the smoke is where it is dissipated to a point that you can't visually see it, but you could still smell it. Then there's going to reach a dissipation point where you can't even smell it. So how we relate that to predator hunting? Well, one, don't be wearing cologne, perfume, whatever. I mean, there's obvious things that we don't want to create odor. But in predator hunting, if they're downwind of you, you've already probably made a mistake. All the little things you can do to correct those little mistakes add up. So ultimately, when you see that coyote swinging around and trying to catch your wind, you better stop him and shoot him before he gets downwind. But if you've done things ahead of time to reduce a little bit of odor, it helps. What sparked this was we had the question of, well, how many people can go out on a stand? You can take, 3, 4 people out probably. Just keep in mind that you take 3 people out hunting, you're creating 3 times the amount of odor. Doesn't mean you can't kill coyotes. My wife and I took a family out that wanted to see how it was done that has a big farm in Ohio, and there was 7 of them, I think. And I thought, we got zero chance of calling in a coyote with my wife and I standing there and 7 people behind them. And I called for a little bit and thought, this is pointless. And I even turned around to him and said, I was like, hey, I tried. Sorry I couldn't get a coyote in front of you. And I gave the one guy a scanner to look through, and he's looking through it, and he said, I think I see one coming in right there. And sure enough, there was one out there 150 yards. It was a chip shot, and I shot it and killed it. And they were even talking and looking up at the stars, and it was a disaster of a stand, and we still killed on it. So I'm not saying it can't be done with tons of odor if the wind's right and everything. Just stack the odds in your favor. Think about odor from a scientific standpoint. If there's no wind and there's a coyote, or very little wind, and there's a coyote circling around at 400 yards, I'll let him get downwind to me, because I can probably set up, figure out my dope, and I can probably make that shot, and he'll never get in my odor. But if there's a good breeze and he's 400 yards downwind, he needs to stop and get killed before he gets downwind, because I guarantee that he's going to get into my wind, because I understand the odor I've produced, how long I've been there. The longer you're there, the longer that odor saturates as it dissipates, the deeper your scent cone gets. Where a coyote comes in downwind, a minute into a stand, I play completely different than if that coyote comes in downwind 15 minutes into a stand. That's 2 totally different scenarios. So think about your odor from a scientific standpoint and try to stack all those odds in your favor. If you have any questions about that, put it down in the comments. I love talk. Like I say, I'm a dog trainer, and everything about what police dogs do is about odor. We track people, we find drugs, bombs, all the things that they're trained to do. I could talk about odor all day long. So if you have any questions about it, put it down in the comments. I'd love to answer them and give you my opinion on it. I kind of have a different view on things coming from a dog training standpoint, but you can apply all that stuff to predator hunting. If it helps, great. Add up all those little tips, kill more, have fun, and thanks, guys.